Tonight,
some of the stories I think are exaggerated.
A Saskatoon pastor says abuse claims from former students of the church-run school are exaggerated, and those students are outraged by his comments. Also,
I suffer from a mental illness.
A Regina City councillor at the Centre of Integrity Investigations escapes punishment after offering up an explanation. Plus, a public viewing for Queen Elizabeth begins at Westminster Hall, where she lies in state for 4 days until her funeral.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, September 14th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The pastor of a Saskatoon church at the center of an abuse scandal is claiming some allegations are exaggerated. Dozens of former students of the church-run Christian Center Academy have filed criminal complaints and a lawsuit alleging rampant abuse and manipulation. They say the pastor's statement proves leadership has no interest in taking responsibility. Jason Warwick reports.
Former students of this private Christian school and church are outraged. That's because the current pastor gave a sermon here on Sunday, casting doubt on some of their abuse allegations.
It's painful, yes. It's still shocking to me because I just cannot imagine gaslighting victims, even if I was not a victim. So it's shocking, it's harmful, it's gaslighting.
This summer, for the first time, Stephanie Hutchinson and others spoke publicly as part of our CBC News investigation. They alleged rampant, systemic abuse at the church and adjacent school, now called Legacy Christian Academy. Those allegations included violent corporal punishment, solitary confinement, psychological manipulation, and rituals such as exorcisms. More than 30 former students have now launched criminal complaints and a lawsuit. Sunday, Mile 2 church pastor Brian Johnson gave a sermon and posted it on the church's YouTube channel. He claimed some of the abuse allegations are exaggerated, but gave no details and provided no evidence.
There's a lot of things that have taken place, some good, some bad. Many of you are hearing some stories over this last month of different things that are a part of our church history. And here's all I have to say to that right now. We'll talk more in the information meeting. Some of the stories are true. Some of the stories I think are exaggerated. Some of them I don't know if they're true or not.
Johnson did not return CBC News interview requests. Hutchinson and others say it's now clear the leaders have no interest in taking responsibility. She says they won't be intimidated anymore.
But we are also very resilient because this has been our life. So I think that there are people out there who are feeling minimized by this kind of sermon. Know that there are almost 100 more who absolutely support you and believe in you and don't believe you're exaggerating. So yes, it's hard to hear.
Following our CBC News investigation, the provincial government appointed an independent administrator to oversee this school. Students say that's not good enough. They want the school closed down, or at least have the provincial government suspend the roughly $700,000 in annual public funding that goes to the school. As for the criminal complaint, that's in the hands of provincial Crown prosecutors. It's unclear when a decision will be made on possible charges. Jason Warwick, CBC News, Saskatoon.
The opposition wants the provincial government to increase transparency when it comes to COVID-19 outbreaks. The NDP is accusing the health minister of downplaying an outbreak at a Regina care home where all 46 residents tested positive. It says information was made public by staff, not by the government or the health authority. All three of the Regina long-term care homes co-managed by Extended Care and the SHA have declared outbreaks. The SHA will assume full control of all 5 extended care facilities next month. The health authority confirmed 3 residents of Elmview died after testing positive, but their cause of death has not been confirmed. The opposition NDP has sent a letter to the minister responsible for seniors asking for answers about the outbreak and how the facilities are being managed.
If this government was serious about addressing the pandemic, they would have transparency. They would communicate to the people of Saskatchewan things like outbreaks and case numbers. They would communicate hospitalizations. They would communicate that information so that folks, especially folks who are thinking about going to visit a loved one in long-term care, could have the information that they need to make a responsible decision.
On Tuesday, Health Minister Paul Merriman said most of the positive cases at Elmview are not severe. He credited a high vaccination rate for that. The SHA says the facility has increased cleaning and PPE use and limited visitors since the outbreak was declared. The Dylan Whitehawk murder trial focused on the inner workings of the Indian Mafia street gang today. Whitehawk has pleaded not guilty to the first-degree murder of Keisha Bitternose. The Crown is building its argument that the killing was gang-related. Jesse Anton has the latest from Court of King's Bench.
On day 3 of the Dylan Whitehawk murder trial, court heard from a street gang expert. Regina Police Constable Trevor Weir testified. The tattoos on the 28-year-old's hands are linked to the Indian Mafia, the city's biggest gang. Police pictures taken in custody show the intertwined letters I and M tattooed on both Whitehawk's middle finger and the top of his hand. The latter, Weir said, is a full patch tattoo, a symbol of a more committed gang member. Weir also linked the background in some of Whitehawk's Facebook photos to the crime scene where Keisha Bitternose was killed in January 2020. Part of the Crown's theory is Bitternose's death was gang-related. In his cross-examination, Whitehawk's defense lawyer focused on the chain of command in gangs. He confirmed with the experts sometimes higher-ranking gang members can force lower-ranking ones to hurt or kill certain people. Whitehawk is already serving time for 2 murders. The Crown says were gang-related. In June, he was sentenced to life in prison for 2 separate shooting deaths just weeks before Bitternose's. At the time, Crown attorneys alleged those killings were driven by Whitehawk's desire to climb the ranks of the Indian Mafia. As for Bitternose's death, 2 people have already been convicted of manslaughter. That includes a woman, Kelly Stonechild, who was sentenced earlier this month. Whitehawk's defense lawyer focused on her role in his questioning, and he pointed to Stonechild's tattoos in his cross-examination. He also confirmed with the experts that women can have high-ranking positions in street gangs as well. This trial is set to continue until next Friday. Jesse Anton, CBC News, Regina.
Funerals for 4 victims of the horrifying mass stabbings in Saskatchewan were held today. 12 people died, including the 2 men accused in the attacks. There are more funerals to come, and as Sam Sampson shows us, the community of James Smith Cree Nation is not grieving alone. So darling,
at a vigil in Prince Albert, voices came together in the darkness. Support you could hear and feel. Earlier in the evening, about 200 people gathered to remember those lost in the violence of September 4th, the crowd sharing their strength. James Smith is only an hour from here. The community's close in more ways than one.
This is a support system that needs to be seen around the world. We need to show people, and especially James Smith and Weldon, there's still good out there. We're trying to help and let us know how we can.
That support coming ahead of more funerals, including for Earl Burns. The 66-year-old veteran is said to have died protecting his family.
I feel a sense of grief and even loneliness, I guess. I don't know where that's coming from, but a deep sense of loss and pride, too, for Earl, for having served in the armed forces.
The Burns family held a wake for Earl in Prince Albert after the vigil. His brother, Orlin, was the one who found Earl's body.
He was a good guy. He was a fun guy to be around. Yeah. He was always smiling. Always smiling, no matter what. Smiled. We grew up close.
Members of James Smith buried 4 people Wednesday. Between services, leaders met with government officials calling for a local First Nations police force and more resources to treat substance abuse. Indigenous Services Minister Patty Haidu attended a funeral Tuesday in James Smith.
For me, the point of the day was to be there on the ground with the families, listening. Everybody wants to move quickly, but now what we need to do is actually get through these next few days, which are going to be really, really tough, and start to put on paper what that looks like.
Many people still have to be laid to rest, but the way to move forward, the leaders here say, is to continue to come together and show support for each other and the people who were directly affected in James Smith Cree Nation. Sam Sampson, CBC News, on Treaty 6 territory in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan.
Regina City Council has voted against punishing one of its own members for disrespectful comments made during a private council meeting earlier this year. That decision came after a public and personal admission from Councillor Terina Shaw. Alexander Kwan brings us that story.
Many of you who know me know that my heart that I have been blessed with an incredible heart.
Councillor Terina Shaw was subdued as she faced a potential reprimand from City Council this afternoon.
I've always been somebody who communicates in a very frank manner.
The first-term councillor has always been outspoken, drawing fire for her comments on conversion therapy and homelessness. On Wednesday, the Ward 7 councillor told council that she is impulsive and speaks without thinking as a result of a medical condition.
I suffer from a mental illness. The stigma that is attached with this is nothing that I wanted to share and publicly known to people. I let people know that are close to me that I suffer from a severe brain injury, my attention deficit disorder.
Shaw said it's an explanation, not an excuse. She was in trouble over comments she made earlier this year during a private virtual meeting of councillors. Shaw told Councillor Shannon Zachidniak in the meeting's chat function to stop lecturing and to not waste her time. A report from the city's Integrity Commissioner found that the comments were not respectful or courteous. The report recommended that Shaw be sanctioned and be ordered to receive training on respectful communication. But the councillor's admission that she is seeking medical assistance for her mental illness made a majority of councillors go a different route.
She has outlined how she has sought professional assistance and will continue to seek professional assistance in that regard. And in those circumstances, I think there's nothing further that this council needs to do.
In a 5-2 vote, council decided to not reprimand Shaw. That means no education and no punishment. Shaw was facing more complaints about her comments on homelessness and Indigenous culture. In that case, the commissioner has determined the complaints are unfounded. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
City Council also debated and made decisions about the future of Regina's red light camera program. Councillors voted 8-2 in favor of continuing that program. The red light cameras are currently set up at 4 intersections and have been there for years. They cost the city more money than what they generate in traffic tickets. According to data, the cameras do prevent severe collisions and reduce crashes overall. Now, Council wants to expand the program to include tickets for all red light violations, including rolling right turns on red lights. They also plan to reach out to the province to get permission to ticket people who speed up when approaching intersections. Well, the cloudy, gloomy weather didn't keep the golfers away at the Goulet Golf Course in Regina. And even though it does feel like fall, there are not enough leaves on the fairway to make finding your ball difficult. So some might call that perfect. But better days are ahead for fans of the long walk. Ethan will explain what's to come in his full forecast after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. An avid gardener in Winnipeg is doing more than showing off her stunning blooms to passers-by. People are being encouraged to stop and smell the flowers and also take a bouquet home. As Emily Brass reports, it's all for a good cause.
I think this one will be nice.
Erica Newman loves opening up her garden to her neighbors.
They're surprised at first. And then I say, you want a flower? Sure. And I said, choose one. And it just brings me joy.
Now she's putting her flowers to another use, raising money for Manitoba Harvest.
This is a nice one. Here.
She's trying to get the whole neighborhood involved, even asking for some of their blooms.
I don't even know her name. I knocked on the door. I said, you have beautiful flowers. I'm not sure if I will have enough. I have lots, but she said, cut anything. It's going for a good cause.
This is the second flower sale this season. Newman's family raised $300 last week for the food bank, selling bouquets to people walking by.
For Manitoba Harvest, whoever can go buy milk for their kids in school or a backpack or whatever. But now you got that flower because you helped me early in spring too.
She's only lived in Wolseley a year now, but nearly everyone seems to know her.
Erica is the best neighbor. She's going to bring everybody together here. She's great. And she gardens all the time, and she gets anyone's help that walks by, and we're all happy to provide it.
Digging a hole to put one of our plants in, or moving one of our plants to another place. So it always takes more than a minute or two. It takes maybe about 15-20 minutes when you walk by your house.
If I run out of vases, we'll use jars.
Neighbors also pitched in by donating vases and rainwater for her flowers. Newman says she learned the power of giving from her mother and wants to pass that on to the next generation.
The neighbors came, sat on the stairs, and it connects them, you know.
A connection she hopes continues to blossom. Emily Brass, CBC News, Winnipeg.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac, making back to busy easy.
And weather specialist Ethan Williams joins me now. I'm legitimately surprised I did not see people just sitting outside in the rain after all the complaining we've had about the heat. Today was perfect for those hot weather haters.
Yeah, exactly. It's the first time that I've broken out the rain jacket in a long time. In fact, I realized it's a little bit too small for me now. I think I need to get a new one, or a good excuse to spend a little bit of money on a fancy new jacket, maybe. Who knows? But anyway, yes, it has been a rainy day, especially in eastern Saskatchewan. And we'll take a look now at our system that is moving through. This is a low-pressure system bringing some rain to the eastern portions of the province today, and now moving into Manitoba. Some heavier bands in there a little earlier this afternoon. It's all part of a low-pressure system. It's actually down in South Dakota, and the heaviest of the rain falling in Manitoba now, and now rainfall warnings for northwestern Ontario too. I want to tell you about a couple of interesting temperature streaks that we had in Regina that just came to an end not long ago. At or above 19 degrees for a daytime high for more than 100 days, from June 1st until September 8th. And then we had at or above 18 degrees for a daytime high for 104 days. That record came to an end on Monday. That is the longest stretch that we have had that warm at temperatures in Regina's record history. That, by the way, courtesy of Rolf Campbell. He keeps tabs on weather records all across the country. Now, Rolf does not keep records for Swift Current, but just looking back at your temperatures over the last few months, Swift Current, you've had daytime highs at or above 17 degrees now since all the way back on May 22nd, a very warm spring and summer for you. But that comes to an end today. You only hit 16.7 degrees. That rain really cooling down temperatures in that part of the province. And in fact, for much of southern Saskatchewan, 9 right now in Wynyard, just cracking 10 degrees in Yorkton and Hudson Bay, still in the 20s on the western side of the province. Now, all this moisture causing a few concerns, weather hazards for us tonight. Maybe some non-severe thunderstorms in the Parkland region in the southeast. Fog for Regina, Swift Current westward to the Alberta border and up towards Saskatoon. And then frost also a possibility. Kindersley, North Battleford, Prince Albert over to Hudson Bay. No advisories out for you, but be aware that there could be some patchy conditions in there. Now, this whole system begins to move out as we head through the overnight hours. Regina, Weyburn, Estevan, the Parkland region over the next couple of days here, we'll see this cloud cover linger, but the rest of the province begins to clear out. And then we watch our next little system move through on Friday afternoon, but that kind of rainy pattern continues here for the next couple of days. Smoke going to be moving out as well. Now, we could see another wave of it from fires in the States move in on Friday morning, and that will be affecting southwestern and west central Saskatchewan. But at this point, it doesn't look like any air quality advisories will have to be issued. Now, Regina, we mentioned that cloud cover sticking around. That'll be the case for the next couple of days with temperatures in the teens, but then a nice warm up for the weekend before things go back to cooler conditions heading into next week. For Saskatoon, again, a little sunnier for you and warmer, highs into the 20s, some rainfall in there. And as we go through September, Sam, looks like those temperatures dropping back down into the teens.
That's all right. Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
Well, if you're a performer who may want to get on stage during Grey Cup Week in Regina, here's your chance. The Harvard Media Community Stage is looking for local talent for its stage in Confederation Park. It'll run from November 17th to 19th from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. outdoors. All entertainment acts are welcome to apply. Family friendly, of course. You can apply on the Grey Cup Festival website. Organizers will let finalists know by October 21st. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. The Queen is now lying in state at Westminster Hall in London. Mourners will be able to view her coffin and pay respects until her state funeral on Monday. Margaret Evans has more on today's ceremonies from London.
The great bones of Buckingham Palace framed the procession carrying Queen Elizabeth from her London home for the last time. Her coffin borne by horse-drawn gun carriage, followed by her children and grandchildren. The march of history down the Mall, slow but relentless. The drumbeat of the funeral march keeping time as guns sounded and bells tolled. Many of those watching say they weren't prepared for the emotions that came with it.
I'm a bit choked up. I can't really speak at the minute. I'm so sorry.
I didn't think it really hit me until I saw her crown on top of the coffin. I was a bit like, whoa, that's incredible.
Such a tiny coffin and then seeing that crown.
These women all met for the first time this morning. In the hours waiting for the procession to begin, friendships were formed.
People have been waiting here for hours and hours. In recent days, we've witnessed incredible scenes in Scotland as people there bid a fond and dignified farewell to the Queen. Now it repeats here.
There was gentle applause as the gun carriage passed along the route towards Westminster, for the Queen, but for the family following too. William and Harry, who walked behind their mother, Princess Diana's coffin 25 years ago, and their father, Charles, now bearing the sometimes lonely mantle of monarch.
I'm glad that they got that little opportunity yesterday, that window of being alone at Buckingham Palace. But yeah, they have to, it's a very public event, isn't it? And I feel as though Prince Charles still hasn't been given the opportunity to mourn yet.
This phase of official mourning marks the start of the public's chance here in London to pay their respects to the Queen in person. The procession making its way to the Palace of Westminster, where she will lie in state for 4 days. Long lines began forming well before the procession left Buckingham Palace in the afternoon. The doors to Westminster Hall will remain open 24 hours a day. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
And Ethan is back with one last look at tonight's weather.
And some fog is possible in Regina tonight, Sam. We're down to 10 degrees at midnight under partly cloudy skies, fully cloudy by the time we hit 8 a.m. tomorrow. Is still at 10 degrees. East winds backing off a little bit from where they were today. And as we head to the noon hour, possible sunny breaks here and there, but a mostly cloudy day in store for us. And east winds just under 25 kilometers an hour. And Saskatoon tonight, clear conditions. Frost won't likely be an issue because that temperature is going to be warm enough, but we are looking at some fog as well. Get to tomorrow, a little bit of cloud cover building in, a chilly morning at 7 degrees at 8 a.m. And then as we head to the noon hour, full sunshine, that wind around 25 kilometers an hour as well out of the southeast and heading to 16 degrees, Sam. Not a bad day in store.
All right, thanks, Ethan.
You're welcome.
And that is it for us tonight. For News Anytime, you can always head to cbc.ca/Sask or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. Glenn Reed will be back with more local news tonight at 11. Thank you for watching and have a great night.